Fabricamos talento. Fabricamos innovación. Y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía. Y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. And promoted by the Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.
Now it's the time of changes. Now is the time to move on. This is the time for solutions. Feel the motion. BNEW is born. BNEW, none of you. Now I'm connected to you. BNEW, none of you. BNEW will do it for you. This is the time for solutions. BNEW is for you.
Bienvenidos de nuevo a esta tercera sesión ya desde este plató de sostenibilidad en esta semana de la Barcelona New Economy Week. Son 4 días en los cuales no solo se habla de sostenibilidad, en este canal sí, pero hay otros donde también se habla de inversión, de talento digital, de real estate, de cultura, de gastronomía y también de actividades artísticas. Son 4 días con 600 speakers, 130 sesiones, 180 horas de contenido, más de 12.000 profesionales que vienen de más de 100 países del mundo. Quizás muchos de ustedes sabrán qué es el cero neto, quizás muchos otros lo descubrirán hoy mismo. Según las Naciones Unidas, este concepto significa, y a ver si lo explico bien de manera sencilla, recortar las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero hasta dejarlas lo más cerca posible de las emisiones nulas, que queden solo algunas emisiones residuales que sean reabsorbidas por la atmósfera mediante, por ejemplo, los océanos y los bosques. La misma organización señala que la voluntad de llegar a este cero neto existe, que los grandes contaminadores como China, Estados Unidos y Europa se han comprometido a conseguirlo y que centenares de ciudades, de empresas y de organizaciones se han inscrito al Race to Zero. Pero de la misma manera que reconoce ese interés, ese compromiso, también reconoce que el camino que se está siguiendo no es el adecuado, porque los planes nacionales de muchos países que suscribieron los acuerdos de París se quedan cortos. Hoy nos preguntamos, is it possible to reach net zero? The answer is yes, and the technology to achieve it exists. We need to power economies with clean energy, replace coal and oil and gas power plants with wind or solar farms, achieve the electrification of transport. In Spain, this sector is one of those that emits the most pollution gases, or eat less meat. The meat industry is another of the major polluting emitters. Será que importante, por lo tanto, buscar soluciones basadas en la naturaleza, porque de los bosques depende en parte la absorción del carbono que se encuentra en la atmósfera. Pero como ya hemos ido viendo a lo largo de estas sesiones, para llevar a cabo este objetivo es necesaria la colaboración público y privada, la colaboración entre las instituciones. The following panel is moderated by Sam Hope. Welcome, Sam. He's Senior Carbon Advisor for BNETZERO, an award-winning carbon markets advisory company that guides organizations towards zero emissions. His organization is about empowering and trusting to support corporate net zero claims, helping to understand the path to net zero and how the carbon market is essential to achieving our 2050 goal. Sam, whenever you want, all yours.
Many thanks for that introduction and to BNEW for having us. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion on the stepping stones to net zero. Firstly, I need to apologize for conducting this in English. I know my way around a tapas menu, but I've not been able to manage the full Spanish dialect to do it justice and the topic of sustainability. My name is Sam Hope. I'm a Senior Carbon Advisor at BNETZERO, which is the voluntary carbon market division of a company called Redshaw Advisors, a member of the British Chamber of Commerce's Sustainability Committee in Spain. We're extremely pleased to be invited to Barcelona this week to participate in this event and share our knowledge, the experience of two great businesses, and the support that can be found by joining the British Chamber of Commerce's Sustainability Committee. Redshaw Advisors, we're a leading carbon markets advisory firm based in London, providing world-class environmental risk management globally. We're probably best known for our assistance to companies participating in the regulatory systems, the EU ETS, the emissions trading scheme. But over the last 3 years, we've helped organizations to demystify net zero and support them to procure renewable energy solutions and develop robust voluntary carbon market strategies. The advisory work we do at BNETZERO guides organizations on net zero and shows them how to develop a pathway that works for both their business and the planet. The first place, obviously, to start is understanding what net zero means. Effectively, net zero means balancing the positive atmospheric emissions we release as a globe by reducing it to as little as possible and then using permanent carbon removal to eliminate the remaining piece. The mandate for net zero is now pretty clear and guided by extensive scientific data, which is only being highlighted by annual global warming crises like droughts, fires, and flooding. So by 2050, we need to have decarbonized globally our carbon footprint by about 90% and scale permanent carbon removal sufficiently to deal with that remaining 10%. The UK and US markets have already started to engage in that process in the net zero mandate. And our purpose for the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce is to translate this knowledge and success to Spanish businesses. So every business is going to play a part in this journey, from those already covered in emissions trading schemes to large corporates with complex supply chains and the very smallest family-run businesses. So hopefully some of the information you'll learn has given greater clarity to what the widely but not fully understood term net zero means, and hopefully this session will further enhance that. Our focus is to double down on that message for each and every business so that they can create their own pathway with clear, achievable stepping stones in place. Every business having their own unique decarbonisation and mitigation journey, and I'm pleased today to be joined by two leading Anglo-Spanish businesses, Bunzl and Vueling Airlines. We're going to discuss their roadmap, the challenges they're going to face, and a few of the milestones they have in place to determine their progress. Both organizations face internal difficulties to decarbonize and rely on a lot of supply chain input to reach their goals. So there should be something for everyone here to relate to. And first up, we've got Albert Iglesias, Director of Sustainability at Bunzl Distribution Spain. Albert, welcome to the panel. Can you give us an overview of what Bunzl's sustainability position is?
Yeah, thanks, Sam, for the introduction. I should say that your English is perfect. So it's a pleasure to stay here to discuss about this interesting topic, but also representing Bunzl Distribution Spain. This is my company. So this roundtable goes about net zero. You talk about that, but I would like to take the chance to remark that for Bunzl, sustainability is much more than that. So obviously, net zero is a very important topic and is a part of our sustainability strategy. And we will go through that later on. But we understand sustainability as a whole. I fully believe that it's mandatory to link sustainability to the main business strategy, to the main business model, in order to have success, but also consistency in all the actions that we are taking place. For instance, in Bansel, we have defined 3 main pillars in our business model. And we link all the actions that we made to these 3 main pillars. And I'm talking about sustainability, but also innovation, digitalization, or the business itself, or the commercial things that we do. Talking now about sustainability, so the first pillar that I mentioned is suppliers. And as a distributor that we are, so it's very important. So suppliers, we develop a lot of actions on that. We developed an ethical code so long time ago. And we set a minimum standard that these suppliers need to achieve in order to be in our panel. And we invest a lot of time developing these standards year by year in order to increase all that, because we understand that supplier side obviously is a crucial part of our business. The second pillar is about the company itself, and we do a lot of things linked to our employees, for instance, our staff. I would like to mention here that this year, for instance, we have been certified by as best place to work several OPCOs, we say operating companies, several OPCOs in Bansel Group, and we are very proud of that. Obviously, it has been a great job by our HR department, but also supported by all the areas. So it's great. In this pillar also, we take care about the territories that we are present. So it's very, very important to us to have a positive impact in the territories that we are. And some actions, for instance, we collaborate with the local NGOs in order to support them. And also we develop a lot of environmental actions in order to be as positive as we can. And obviously, the third pillar of our business model is about customers, is last but not least, obviously. And we want to be a guide for them. So we don't want to be reactive. We don't want to play this role. We need, and we want to be proactive with them. We want to be a guide for them in order to do a good transition to the product, to the normal product, to sustainability product, for instance. And we are also developing a lot of actions in order to help them to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. That I think that is a basic topic to do it.
That's clear. I think with your business type, it's really important to get all of those different drivers moving in the right direction, your employees and customers, the supply chain. Thank you very much. And next we have Frank Saint-Marty, Director of Sustainability and Government Affairs at Vueling Airlines. Frank, airlines are often spoken about in the greenhouse gas emissions debate. How is your company looking at net zero?
Good morning. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, BNEW, and to all the organization of this event and the British Chamber of Commerce. For us, sustainability is a very, very critical topic. Same as Albert, net zero is playing a special role within it. And as you may know, aviation is responsible for 2.5% of global CO2 emissions. And we have a clear roadmap to decarbonize and to achieve the net zero emissions in 2050. IAG, the group to which Vueling Airlines belongs, was the first airline group in the world to commit being net zero. That was in September 2019. At that moment, a lot of people thought they are crazy. Why an airline could or how will commit and how will afford this challenge? But after that, a lot of different airlines also committed. And today, the International Airlines Transport Association, IATA, has also committed being net zero in 2050, and all the industry has a real solution to decarbonize. How are we going to do that? Because similar to what Albert said, it's going to be within our business model, within our strategy. And we have three main at Vueling initiatives or work streams in which we could organize the multiple actions we are working with since long time ago. So, for instance, the first one is the operational efficiency. Operational efficiency, it's both the technology we invest, the aircraft we have, how we reduce emissions through new aircraft or through new maneuvers, reducing weight on board that is not needed, like the digitalization of the onboard documentation, and also is the digitalization and the optimization of the airspace efficiency, which is a very interesting topic. Then another very important part, and I think it's the key for the next years, is the sustainable aviation fuels. The good thing about sustainable aviation fuels is that is a new technology that can be loaded and used today with current aircraft engines and current technology. You can just drop. It's a drop-in solution because you fill the wing of the aircraft with this fuel, and the emissions, the CO2 emissions in the complete life cycle are about minus 80%. In some cases, we have done test flight with a 90% emission reduction, with one fuel of 90% emission reduction. This one was specifically produced from cooked oil. So they're usually produced from organic waste, from plastics, from residues from the industry. So that's a win-win for the environment. And well, finally, the important thing here will be, as you said at the beginning, a collaboration between a private sector, public sector. We need all together to find solutions to see how the governments could invest more in developing these new technologies, like the SAF technology, the sustainable aviation fuel technology, that will need a huge investment.
Thank you both for those perspectives. You're both making clear and broad strides from a sustainability point of view, and to bring that focus back into your organization's emissions, I'd like to understand how you're measuring and demonstrating your progress year by year. Both your organizations are aligned to that 2050 science-based target for net zero, which leaves you about 28 years, obviously, to reduce 90% of that carbon footprint across all scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And for the benefit of the audience here, I'm just take a couple of minutes to explain those scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, so everyone's up to speed. So scope 1 emissions, when we talk about scope 1, we're talking about the direct fuel that you guys burn in your operations. It's relatively obvious for both business types, fuel in your fleets of vehicles. That's creating direct atmospheric emissions. Then we have scope 2 emissions, which by and large for every business you can view as electricity or energy-derived emissions. So a power producer is burning fuel to deliver you electricity, and there's emissions related to that. And then the scope 3 piece is everything else. It's everything within a supply chain, a value chain, that contributes indirectly to your larger footprint. So there's a lot of difficulties in that. There's a lot of moving parts and difficult to collect data. So a reduction of 90% across all of those emissions seems like a fairly daunting task. But there's a chance really to break that challenge down into smaller bite-sized chunks, business strategy cycles that are more manageable and measurable. I'd like to hear how your businesses are trying to break that challenge down. So Albert, has Bunzl put in any stepping stones to check its net zero progress?
Yeah, for sure. So Bunzl, as a group, we joined SBTi in last year, 2021, with two clear targets. The first one is to reduce 50% of our emissions by 2030. And the second one is to be a net zero by 2050. So But we already, and this is for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, as you mentioned before. So, but we are already calculating all the Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions from 12 years now. So we start in 2010, calculating all Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and putting in place also a lot of actions in order to reduce it. So these new targets for SBTi will be on top of that. So we have already done a lot of job on that. So will be in addition. It's also good to mention that in all the calculations that we made in these 12 years, so we have already reduction of 60% of the total emissions. That has been a good job, and I think that this is great and shows our compromise in order to give all the sustainability actions. But obviously, in order to tackle these big targets, because medium and long targets, so obviously we need to split it in different milestones in order to be achievable. Okay, for instance, in our group, I can be a little bit more concrete and give you some examples of that. So we have a clear target also for 2030 and reducing 50%, changing 50% of our commercial vehicles to electrical vehicles and 70% of our company cars. Okay, this is a clear mandate that we have as a group, but also to buy our 100% of our electricity from renewable sources. That is also a compromise to achieve it in 2030, and I'm talking globally as a group, not just as a single company.
Fantastic. So you've got plans to change that fleet already, and I think you're overperforming given you started this 12 years ago. Where do you think your biggest challenges are going to lay in that low-carbon journey?
Yeah, as a challenge, I can split in two main groups. Probably talking as a group, as a Bansal group, that we are present in more than 31 countries, with around 150 operating companies, with more than 21,000 employees. So for sure, we are present in different markets. So the main challenge here would be to liberate all these different markets that have obviously different sensitive to sustainability. So I think that as a group, the main challenge will be obviously that. And as a company in Spain that I'm working for, I can mention probably two challenges. The first one will be to take on board our suppliers panel. In our case, we have more than 300 suppliers that was around different product categories, and also with different maturity of sustainability actions. So this will be a real challenge to take all them on board, because as you mentioned just before, in order to reach all our Scope 3 targets, we need to work together with our supplier panel as well. And the second challenge for here in Spain, so we deliver products in all Spain. So in the big cities, like for instance Barcelona or Madrid, all the infrastructure, all the chargers, networks, and also the logistic routes are shorter, and the charger networks are more prepared. So it will be relatively easy to change to an electrical vehicle, but there are zones in Spain that the logistic routes are much longer, and obviously there are not infrastructure there. So as you mentioned before, to a collaboration also between the private, but also the public zone, it's very important to that. So I can summarize this as a challenges.
I think you both have a similar problem in that you've got to look at your fleets and you've got to look at that supply chain. Can you share any successes that you made so far?
Yeah, so talking about Bansal Distribution Spain, my company. So we have been certified by ISO 14001 from 2015. So seven years now. This has allowed us, this ISO is about the environmental management systems that we are taking in place within the company. And this certification has allowed us and has also pushed us internally to reach a lot of things, talking about environmental. And I can also put some examples of that. And also this certification gives us fully confidence of our data is correct, no? So I can give you some examples. For instance, between the period from 2018 until 2021, last year, we have reduced 70% of our electricity consumption, 70%. Also around 50% of our water consumption, and around 14% the fuel consumption. So all these achievements are obviously tracked and certified by INOR, that is the certificate that we have with the ISO. And we have also applied a lot of digital smart systems in order to reduce all the paper, because in business like ours, with a warehouse with a lot of people and so on, so we used to use a lot of paper. So we are taking in place smart systems in order to digitalize all the processes and eliminate also this paper. And about achievements, I have also a good announcement. So 2 weeks ago, we reached the certification by INOR as well, based on GHG protocol, green gas house protocol that, as probably you know, is the most widely used protocol with fixed standards in order to calculate all the Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. So we are already certified about this protocol. And we have also developed a tool in order to do projects with our customers about Scope 3 emissions, taking into account all the transport between our warehouse and delivery point of each customer. So we have made a calculator in order to help our customers to do this reduction of this calculation and project to reduce the CO2 emissions in the Scope 3. So I think that this will be a summary of the best achievements that we have made in the past.
Quite a large number of things there, and kudos on that new achievement. I presume that your customers are reacting quite well to all of those things?
Yeah, for sure. So as I show, so we have made a lot of things, but to be honest, I think that we have not communicated in the past so well to our customers. So this is an issue that we have detected, and obviously we are trying to addressing. So from the beginning of this year, so the strategy also for sustainability will be to communicate to our customers, to put in value, but not also that, also to drive a path of collaboration and give feedback about all the actions that we are taking place, but also to hear about their expectations and requirements and all these kind of things, and build this path together. Because I think that sustainability would be obviously a long way, a long journey, and we need to do it together with all our stakeholders, with partners, with the suppliers, obviously, but also with the customers.
Thank you very much.
And I think, I think that based on the feedback that I have received from our customers, so they are very happy to all the things that we have proposed, and I think that we will have a great project to develop with them as well. So that's the good thing.
Perfect, thank you. Now let's hear from Frank about Vueling Airlines' journey. Frank, do you have interim targets that you're using to measure your performance?
Yes, to achieve the net zero 2050, we have 3 main interim targets. In 2030, having a 20% net reduction on CO2 emissions. Also, on that same year, use 10% of sustainable aviation fuels. It could seem low, but current prices are 3 to 5 times bigger of that kind of fuel, because its production is only 0.01% of total global aviation consumption. So it's a huge challenge, the production of this sustainable aviation fuel. And then the last one, it's in 3 years from now, in 2025, to have a 10% reduction on the carbon footprint of our passengers. So the grams of CO2 per passenger and kilometer that we are emitting.
Great, so you've got a company-wide interim target, a fuel target, and a per-passenger metric target as well. So loads of ways to try and measure that. Where do you think those challenges are going to be in that journey?
Well, I think that two bigger challenges are the sustainable aviation fuels, because its production is very limited today, and its prices are not affordable for our customers. So we need governments to invest in the construction of new sustainable aviation fuel plants. In Spain, we have a huge potential for this kind of green energies and for the sustainable aviation fuel. We could become an exporter of the European Union of this kind of fuels. And this fuel, the advantage is that it reduces CO2 emissions by around 80%. And it can be used today with the fleets that we have today. So it's the quick fix solution that we see. Then the other biggest challenge I see is to redesign the current airspace design. So the airspace nowadays, it's designed in a way that it was thought many years ago when the radio beacons, the radio stations on the ground were used for the aircraft to guide them, so that our routes on Europe today are doing zigzags all the time. And this produces an enormous amount of waste, additional CO2. It's calculated around 10% of CO2 emissions could be avoided immediately if aircraft flew following straight trajectories. So current technology allows it, because at the aircraft we are using GPS navigation systems. The thing we have to do is now to redesign the airspace and the airways to make this possible. This is the CESAR project, an European project that has been running for many years. But again, we need the support from governments to understand that the digitalization of the airspace is needed. And thanks to this digitalization, we will be able to make this a reality. At Vueling, we are participating in 2 projects to make this a reality with BNETZERO, which is the Spanish airspace provider, and Eurocontrol, which is the European manager of the airspace. And we strongly believe that this is the short term, the first solution that we can implement, even before sustainable aviation fuels become at a huge scale in the 2030s. So I think those 2 are the main challenges we have.
I mean, talk about quick wins. I had no idea that a plane does not just take off, go straight and land. So I'm always looking at those monitors in front of me thinking, oh, I'm doing a lovely straight route, but you know, that makes no sense to send a plane left, right, and center to burn extra fuel. Imagine you could get there 10 minutes earlier as well if you went straight. So I guess that's certainly somewhere you could try and find those 10% that you're talking about. How else do you plan on decarbonising your operations when you rely so heavily on jet fuel?
Yeah, let me give you an example because it's more graphical. Last June we did a Barcelona to Lyon flight in which we achieved a 72% CO2 emissions reduction. This is a huge achievement for our company and for the trajectory that we have. And this was a special flight requested by the European Commission on the frame of the EU Connecting Days, in which the young people had a special role, and we carried a group of 20 young people from 2 Catalan universities. And how did we achieve that 72% emissions reduction? So with 3 main things that we did in parallel. The first one was exactly this, to fly a more straight trajectory, thanks to the coordination with BNETZERO, the Spanish airspace provider, Eurocontrol, the European one, the French, and also the military authorities, because it's not only that we need to change the airspace design, but also to better coordinate with the military authorities to use their spaces when they are not in use. because there's a lot of spaces that are reserved for military purposes, but 90% of the times are not used. So it's just knowing when are not active and using it. It's a question of coordination. Then the other thing that we did was to use the sustainable aviation fuel produced by Repsol, and thanks to it, we did the biggest part. And then finally, the aircraft we used was an Airbus 320neo, new generation aircraft, that also have new additional savings from the regular one. So why don't we do this in a normal, in a more day-to-day operation? Because it's the sustainable aviation fuel, it's not affordable for our customers today. That's why we need investment, government support for new plants in Spain, for instance, of this kind of sustainable aviation fuel, and also the European governments to support the single European sky, which is these straight trajectories.
Does the EU support sustainable aviation fuel incentive programs or anything like that at the moment?
At this moment, a good example is United States and the UK. They have very good support incentive schemes for the construction of new sustainable aviation fuel plants. That's what we should have at the European Union. Maybe the next generation EU funds is a good opportunity to do this kind of investments and incentives.
Awesome. And are your customers reacting well to what you're doing, what you're putting in place?
Well, yeah, in another site, talking about our customers, we recently launched a new cooperation agreement with Abicor, which is a fuel provider, fuel logistics company operating in Spain. Exolum is the name of the holding company. And with this service, we are offering our customers the possibility to load SAF. The SAF is sustainable aviation fuel, the same day of their flight. So sustainable aviation fuel is a reality nowadays at Vueling, thanks to the contribution of our customers and their tickets. And then we match their contribution so that if they offset a small amount, 2%, we offset another 2%, and then it's a joint effort to decarbonize. It's surprisingly good news that more than 40,000 people in less than 3 months since we launched the project have already purchased their SAF and has been supplied the day of their flight by allowing more than 20 tons of sustainable aviation fuel loaded, supplied, and more than 60 tons of CO2 avoided to the atmosphere. That's the equivalent of 12 flights from Barcelona to Palma de Mallorca. So it's very surprising that our customers are telling us that they want to fly. They are willing to pay more to have a sustainable aviation.
Well, it won't surprise you that much that obviously I came over to Barcelona and flew with Vueling Airlines. How could I not? And you can add an extra 1 passenger to that SAF program because I gave it a shot and got my certificate, so it's all working well. Have you got any other individual schemes you could mention to demonstrate any wider sustainability progress you guys are making?
For me, for others?
Sorry.
Individual, so other things rather than net zero, right?
Yeah, anything that else is helping on the plane, reducing any wastage, water, anything like that?
So yeah, as same as Albert said before, the net zero is part of our global sustainability strategy, or let's put it even higher, the ESG platform that we have. So within the E and within the environment, the sustainability that we have mainly is 3 pillars: CO2 emissions, that's the net zero part, I explained it. Then we also have initiatives for waste management, and finally for noise reduction. So waste management, basically, the biggest impact we do is the onboard catering. And here, we started segregating on board with trolleys that allow then segregating and recycling. Also, we suppressed the single-use plastics by compostable materials. So it's managing from the packaging until the disposal or the management of the waste.
Fantastic.
And then regarding the noise, the new engines of the aircraft, the 320neo, allow to reduce CO2 noise emissions by 50%. So that's a clear advantage for the neighborhoods of surrounding the airports.
Absolutely. Thank you both for sharing those stories. I think there's so much there, a lot of challenges, obviously, but a lot of successes you're both making in difficult industries. And so thanks for demonstrating what that looks like and being gracious enough to do it in English for me. Thank you to our organisers, BNEW, all the staff involved in the event, and of course the British Chamber of Commerce for giving us this platform today. The British Chamber of Commerce in Spain is a private business association of Spanish and British businesses, to which we're a member, Red Shaw Advisors is a member, and together we've identified that the key area of concern throughout the network is sustainability and how to develop an effective net zero strategy. So for that reason, the British Chamber has created a sustainability working group, which anyone is welcome to join, sharing that net zero guidance and support. So we're going to have regular events on top of the platform of support, and hopefully we'll all manage to take our best foot forward to net zero. So on behalf of all the panelists here today, thank you again, and let's speak soon.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias por el interesante caso de cada uno de vosotros que nos habéis explicado. Hemos conocido los casos de dos empresas que trabajan para llegar a este net zero, Bunzl y Vueling, para llegar a esta reducción al 90% de la huella de carbono de cara al 2050. De manera genérica, pues se ha hablado de incluir a todos los proveedores de la empresa en este desafío, de comunicar mejor las acciones que se realizan y quizá de manera más concreta pues se han puesto ejemplos, ¿no? Desde cambiar la flota de vehículos a algo que, pues la verdad, supongo que a ustedes también les habrá parecido obvio, que es el hecho de que los aviones vuelen recto, que es algo que, bueno, parece una obviedad, pero que no es así y que ahorraría un buen número de emisiones. Gracias por participar, por estar conectados a este canal de sostenibilidad en esta semana de la Barcelona New Economy Week. Nosotros ahora hacemos una pausa y luego retomamos estas conversaciones, estos paneles, y el siguiente tratará de algo completamente distinto. Hablaremos de nutrición responsable.
Fabricamos talento, fabricamos innovación y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. And promoted by the Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.